Alright, everybody, and welcome back to the roundup. I'm delighted to be joined by St Cadoc's manager Martin Fellows. Fez, how you doing, it?
I'm good, PG. Thanks for having me on.
No, I'm delighted. Obviously, we tried to arrange for you to come on for a proper interview, but now that my children are of an age where they go to every club imaginable,
Hmm.
I just don't have any time during the week, and it's killing me, to be honest, because I was really keen on getting you on. But it's something we definitely will do.
No problem. Thanks again.
Right, so we'll start with the Scottish Cup. Only three games for our level in that. Talbot nil, Broxburn 1, Meda 3, Civil Service Stores nil, Keith nil, Clydebank 3. The Meda result was a big surprise for me. I know they've picked up a wee bit the last couple of weeks, and I see you and Baird in at work quite regularly. So I've been talking to Baird, and he's been saying they're improving and getting better. But civil service are having a pretty good year in the
Hmm.
Lowland League. And obviously you've managed at that level. Is there how would you rate our West Premier League compared to the Lowland League?
That's a really difficult question. It's certainly a totally different type of game. I'll be honest, and I've only obviously got experience now, about 15 months in the West Premier. I certainly find the week to week games a lot more difficult, or just a lot more challenging, uh, on a week to week basis. And I think that just goes for, if I had a conversation with somebody in the off season that we were trying to bring to the club, and they were in the loan league at the time, and I was talking about the kind of bottom three teams that were in at the Premier League that get relegated, and being Kirky Rob Roy, Irvine Meadow, and that's terrible. Who's the third team that come
I
down now?
know I've actually Arthurlie.
Arthurlie. And I'll be brutally honest, I think any of those three teams wouldn't finish bottom of it. I think
Aye.
it's safe to say none of the three of them would finish in the bottom two or three of the Lowland League, in my opinion. And that's not a it's not a slight in the Lowland League. It's just obviously the pyramid system, and the pyramid system. Oh, I think we're almost 10 years in now, and that's just going to continue to take time to balance itself out. The Lowland League is different in different aspects. In terms of, I find the games that can be more tactical. Like, I feel like opposition managers potentially do a wee bit more
Mhm.
in game. I felt in when we were at East Kilbride, there was a lot more of changing shapes and changing personnel, and the game was played a lot more out for the back. Teams were trying to play out a lot more, so it was probably a lot more in pressing and building than at times the West can be a wee bit more direct and a wee bit more, you know, it can be a faster paced game. But what I would say is, I think individually the quality of player in the West potentially is higher, bar
Aye.
the top teams in the Lowland League, and then when you work your way down, like then I think the if you look at Irvine Meadow last year that get relegated, you'd still be able to pluck two or three players from
Aye.
that team and go, oh, Ewan Baird, quality goal scorer at this level. Grant Brennan was there at the time. Jamie Barclay was there, or Jamie Barclay's there now. These are all players that you would maybe look at a team sheet and you go, oh, is that where he is now?
Mhm.
And they would probably, you argue, they get a game for any team in the Premier at certain points. So, yeah, I certainly think individual player quality is higher, but maybe level of organisation in the Lowland League is a wee bit higher than the West at times.
Aye. I think, like we say, we touch on with the Meda, that is for me it's a hugely impressive result. And
Yeah.
also, like I said, I've been speaking to Baird, and he's been saying it's been getting better. And I'm really pleased for Ben because I think that he walked in at a very difficult time for the club.
Mm.
I think they've only won something stupid like 7 or 8 games in the league since last August. So it's obviously a very difficult period. And I genuinely believe that this is going to be the start of them kicking on. And a result of that is huge. But they've also got civil service and
Yeah.
the South coming up soon as well. I wonder if they can go and do that again.
Mm.
Potentially civil service will be looking to take their aim back on them.
Yeah. No, that's a great result. And as you say, a lot of time for Ben. I've been that guy at East Kilbride where you kind of get asked to go in and help out when things have been really tough and you lose a manager. And Ben was taking the under 20s just like I was. And it can be a really difficult thing to go in and do and make the step up. And I think Ben was doing both at one point at the end of last season. I think he was taking the under 20s
Mhm.
and the first team. So there certainly can be no commitment questions. And I think, as you say, I think after that game against Rutherglen, they ran Rutherglen really close.
Aye,
That they look as if they've picked up quite a bit, and they've got good quality. As I said, Jamie Barkley, Bairdy, they've got quality in their team. So, a big club, So hopefully that's them looking to pick back up.
aye. Clydebank 3-0 against Keith. I'm not overly surprised with the result. I know it's a long trip up there. The way it is for Clydebank, I think that's 15 out of 15. They're absolutely flying. Have you played Clydebank yet?
Yeah, they beat us 1-0.
Aye. So what's been your view of Clydebank so far this season?
I said in the off season that the business that Moff had done potentially was, I think it was maybe flying under the radar until the last couple of weeks before the start of the season. I think what Moff did and what Moff has done over the last 4 or 5 years is keep a real solid base. And what he's done in the summer is he's added quality players to positions that he would have probably said and other people would probably said that he needed to make additions
Aye.
to. And instead of bringing in 6 or 7 that maybe 2 or 3 are going to improve you, he's brought in 4. I think it was 4. It might be 5 now that Gowser signed, but he made 4 quality additions in Kia, the goalkeeper, and Big
Leishman,
Leishman,
aye.
yeah, Simi, and Dean Cairns, who's a quality player at this level as well. And I think all 4 of those players go right in and improve them. So yeah, no, I think they're really well organised. They've good athletic attributes. They're big, they're physical, they're strong, they're tactically aware. And Moff's done a great job to put them in a real strong position now that we're reaching that kind of third way point of the season.
I think that the players you mentioned, and the impressive thing for me is it's the spine of the team.
Yeah.
It's like they're so strong now. And somebody, I won't say who, but somebody sent me a message last week or during the week there, after the roundup last week, and they said to me about basically Moff has signed players who have won stuff, and
Hmm.
that's maybe something they didn't have a great deal of players
Hmm.
who had won a lot. So you look at like Leishman speaks for himself. He's won everything at this level. Samson Keir's won quite a few things.
Yep.
Simey's
Albert.
won the Scottish, the West. Gowser's won the West Premier. Dean's won the Scottish and the West. Truesdale's won the Scottish. I mean, you're literally full guys. And the reason the comment was made to me was he's involved with one of the Ayrshire teams, and he went,
Hmm.
he's taken all these boys out of Ayrshire teams
Yeah.
and put them into Clydebank. And I think that's a big reason why they're doing so well just now.
Yeah, and I think it's probably part of the reason. For me, it's the fact that they're good quality football players.
Mm.
They're arguably better than what, this time last year. If Mov played his team for this season against last season, I think his team's a lot stronger now than it was last season. So a big thing will be trying to avoid injury and keeping key players available. But they've put themselves in a brilliant position. And yeah, testament to the club, to be fair, because you don't see clubs backing a manager the way that they've backed him off over the last period of time. And we're probably trying to do something similar over a period of time that Clydebank have done in terms of building the club up.
Aye.
Obviously Clydebank are a more historic club and have a longer history, but they've backed Moff, they've backed his staff. You look at what some of the work that their under 20s have done over the last few years with Scott and Paul Mooney there.
Mm.
Like the club as a whole over the last few years has been working really hard to improve, and then they've backed them off in the summer to go and get players in to improve them and not panicked at last season being close and going, no, we've lost out now, so we'll change everything. I always think it's braver to double down and go, right, well, what do we have to do to get better? And they've certainly done that. So yeah, no, it's up to everybody else to try and keep up with them at this stage.
Aye. Um, the final game in the Scottish, Talbot losing at home to Broxburn. I think a lot's been said about the Talbot over the last few years, where they're, excuse me, they're not quite the team that they were and have been. Um, Broxburn obviously having a decent season in the Lowland League, so it's not like it's a massive shock that they've beaten the
No,
Talbot. But I feel like the Talbot aren't quite how they used to be, where seeing a cup game, you're like, well, the Talbot will go and take this team, and you
yeah,
even look back to like the Ayr result and stuff.
yeah,
I remember having the Talbot on my coupon that day. I was like, they'll go and
no,
get something because it's the way it was back then. I
yeah,
feel they're not quite the same team
mhm,
who with the quality they've got, they're still capable of beating pretty much
no,
anybody at this level. I
Yeah.
feel like they're not quite as resilient as
Mm,
Talbot teams gone by.
yeah. I mean, I think last year was a lot of change for Talbot, and obviously the run they went on the second half last season was absolutely fantastic and pulled themselves into the title race in the last few weeks. But I think they lost a couple. I think Gareth Armstrong moving on.
Mhm.
I always thought Gareth
Good
a,
player.
a real good player, and even they lost Glavin, the goalie, who was on
Mhm.
loan to Kilmarnock, and he's up. I think he was man of match for Elgin yesterday. So
Right.
they have lost a couple, and it's just difficult for Talbot when they're maybe looking to build on the back of last season and a lot of change, and they're probably not kicked on the way they maybe would have expected to. But you know, you could argue that the best of them probably yet to come, and exactly like it did last season, I'm sure that nobody needs to tell Tucker,
No.
how to operate. So I've no doubts that they'll be competitive. But yeah, it was surprised to see them go out of the Scottish Junior Cup as well, because you would always kind of consider Talbot a really, really strong cup team.
No, particularly with that one to Lossiemouth, which
Yeah.
was a massive surprise. We'll move on to the Premier League. Darvel 2, Hurlford 2, Gartcairn 4, Largs 4, Glenafton 3, Shotts 2, Borough 3, Cumnock 0, Pollok 1, Drum 2, St Cadoc's 3, Beath 0. So we'll start with yourselves. Y- That's a really impressive result for me. I know Beath haven't quite been the team that they were the last two seasons, but that's a huge result for you. That's back-to-back wins in the league now, and we spoke off camera there when we were saying how many cup games you've had and stuff, and obviously the getting to the final of the Demolition Cup, which is huge for you, which is something we'll touch on. But how important to use is that win, and also the manner of it to go and win 3-0, which on paper looks a very comfortable result.
I certainly wouldn't have described it as very comfortable. I said that to Straney after the game. We probably went into the game in as good a place as we possibly could have. It's 7 wins in all comps, and that's from the Johnston Borough game. But more importantly, I always say that we've been playing a lot better. We went to shots and had a really hard fought away win there, and then we played a couple of friendlies actually against higher opposition, the two midweeks following, and we were getting real good performances in those. We made a couple of tweaks after Johnston Borough. We changed a couple of things in terms of the shape and what we were trying to do, and then since then we've looked a lot more solid. We've created more chances. That's now, if I look at the three games in terms of shots, Cowdenbeath at home and Beath at home, it's 3 games now where we've scored 3 goals and kept clean sheets in all of them. So we were certainly getting in a much better place. But we've been training really, really well as well, and we just felt in a decent place. We've been lucky as well that we've not any injuries at the moment, bar Alan Lithgow, who was working on the pitch before the game, who should be available for the game this weekend. Alan picked up a calf injury, and then we had went up to Campbelltown and we put him on at half time, and he picked up a knock in that game, but because we put him on, didn't come off and set him back another 3 or 4 weeks. So Bar Allen were full complement. We're really, really strong at the moment. So I did think that if we turned up and played our game, that we would be more than capable of beating Beath. So you're happy with any win in this league. So yeah, it was a good result for us.
You touch on the Johnson Borough game where you're 7 for 7 since that game. You had the slow start, losing the first couple of games. Did you change anything during that period, or was it very much this is the plan? We've not won the games that we'd like to have won right away, but we're just going to continue? Or was there a reason or a specific thing that was changed?
No, we did change. We did change that. That Johnston Borough game actually came off. Was the day before an international window. So I was going off to Spain with the under 19s, and we had a free week the following week. So it kind of gave almost a wee reset week where gave us an opportunity to take a look at things when I was away, looked at the games and kind of compared them to the start of last season. It wasn't about panicking or trying to rip everything up. It was about seeing if we could make small tweaks or changes to try and get back in control of games, because that was the biggest thing for me. I felt that the games that we'd lost this season, we didn't have control in them, and we probably made tweaks at the start of the season. If we looked at our results last season and some of the games that we maybe drew or we lost and we thought could we turn those into wins and we were trying to be more aggressive in the final third and maybe commit an extra body into the final third. We lost control at the back end, in my opinion, and really Johnston Burgh's a good example. The game was like a basketball game.
Mm.
We had chances, they had chances. We didn't do enough to win it. We probably weren't bad enough to lose it, but I didn't think we deserved anything for the game. It was a set piece that won it in the end. But my real gripe was I was watching the game back and thinking, we don't look as if we don't look like us or what we've been trying to do or have real control of the game and build the game properly. So yeah, we did have to make a couple of changes. We've kind of altered Mark Kelly came in as a attacking midfielder. He's now playing that holding midfield as a single six in front of the back four, and he's been absolutely sublime in there. We put him in there the following game from Johnston Borough. Spoke to him at training about it. We looked at his qualities and how this league, Mark scores 30 goals in the Lowland League playing off the front.
Mhm.
But how is this league different to the Lowland League? If you want more touches of the ball, you're probably going to have to get them in your own building third because the turnovers are high and it's played at 100 miles an hour. So maybe being able to be a 10 or pick up those pockets aren't the same, in this league as they would be in the Lowland League. So dropping Mark back in there and allowing us to get Ronan Hughes and Jack Breen further forward and Anton Brady as well, who's the other kind of attacking eight for us in there, has just looks as if it's made a huge difference to us and given us back control of games. Certainly we're not perfect, but we certainly look more like now I would expect us to look like. And there'll be games that will drop points or we'll lose. But I think now we'll maybe do it a wee bit more on our own terms with having Mark in there and try to dictate the play a wee bit more. And as I say, all the games we dropped points in, Clydebank as well, we had no control really in the Clydebank game. That was 1-0. We went down to 10 men. But I wasn't sitting thinking we dominated that
Mm.
game or we had real good spells in that game. We were all right. And I think now we're starting to get closer to what I'd want us to look like.
Uh, I think I think these are similar to what you did last year. I do believe there's going to be a push coming for you. Um, Drumchapel beating Pollok 2-1. It's no result I was massively surprised with. The Pollok have had a great spell recently. Again, a bit like yourselves, a lot of
Yep.
cup games, and
Yeah, yeah.
Darvel fall into that as well, where it's like so many cup games, and it's good to be winning for them, and you build up that kind of momentum. But you come back into league action, you play Drumchapel, who are really high flying this season, coming up for the first division. A 2-1 win for the Drum. I think that's a massive result for them to keep them in the hunt because at this time they're probably the best placed team
Yeah.
to challenge Clydebank at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great result. Delighted for Hopi. I watched the highlights or I watched the goals and I watched his interview after the game. So they're kind of in the position we were in last year in terms of a newish club coming into the Premier Division and finding their feet with things. And the first time they go to Newlandsfield, first time they've been to Beechwood, and they've done magnificently. Hope he's added two or three to what he had was a solid base and he's improved them again, and they're really competitive in every fixture they play. So yeah, I don't think that's a shock result. Them going and beating Pollok. I'm sure Maxie will be disappointed having been ahead, and then I seen that Ben Fry saved a penalty, and you maybe hope that the momentum swings for you back in your direction after your goalie saving a penalty. But I think second half going on reports from Chapel were probably worthy of their win.
Aye. Two teams who have been doing particularly well in the league, Gartcairn and Largs, four each. I actually fancied Largs to win that, and I think Gartcairn pulled it back late on to get the equaliser. But Gartcairn are really, they're arguably taking Clydebank out. They're probably the most informed team in the league in
Yeah,
the last 5 or 6 games. Well, I think they've only dropped 4 points out of 18 in the last 6 games. But Largs, again, that's just, you'll know better than me having managed and coached against them. But I feel like they're such a difficult team to beat. And
mm.
they won't win the league, in my opinion. And I say that right for the get-go of the season. But Largs have a say, in my opinion, on who can win the league because they will go and take points off teams who are looking to try and put themselves in a position and to win the league.
Yeah, no, definitely. Arnie's done a brilliant job down there. They finished so strongly last year. I went on that crazy run of wins at the end of last season that just propelled them right up the table. And they've just continued. And I think it's a big thing. If you've got a goal scorer, it gives you half a chance of winning
Aye,
any game. And Wilsall's just continued his form from this season, from last season into this season. As you say, Glencairn probably the informed team. Again, started slowly like ourselves, but now look as if they're starting to get there. Real quality in their team, real quality players. Ian McShane, Kyle Hutton, Mark McGuigan, just to name a few. They've got real quality.
aye,
So never really in doubt. We beat them 3-0 at the start of the season. Again, it wasn't a 3-0 game. The goals change the games at different points, and we got them at the right moments. But you could see that the players that they've got there, it was a matter of time before they started winning games of football. And Mick's a good manager. Again, the club have backed them. The club haven't panicked after a really, poor start like ourselves, and they've got behind them. They've helped them, potentially add a couple of players, and hopefully now that's them starting to kick on.
aye, it does look like it. At the bottom end of the table, a couple of really big games. Darvel drawn 2 each with Hurlford. Um, Darvel obviously having the deduction in points, which makes it even more difficult for them considering their really shaky start. 2 draws in a row, so they're finally starting to pick up points, but they need to get to the stage where they draws need to be converted into wins if they've got any
Yeah.
hope. Hurlford, I've been quite vocal on the fact that I think they're a very aging team. Even though there's guys who have so much quality and have won so much at level, I feel like they're quite an old team now,
Yeah.
and they're in a position where they're kind of fighting to keep themselves up. They're at the relegation zone as it stands just now. Hendo's been there and done it, but I think it's going to be a really hard season for the two of them.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that Hereford are maybe in that position at this stage. They were by far the two hardest games we had last season. They beat us 4-1, 3 or 4-1 in the first day. I think it was 3-1 in the first day of the season, and they beat us 2-0 away from home. And we were convincingly beaten both games. And I found them a really difficult team. I actually thought first day of the season when they played us last year, I thought they would be there or thereabouts, and they did have a really good start. But I feel like they've got good players. They've signed Ben Hughes for Shinrar, who's a player I know. They signed George O'Connor in the summer who was on loan from Shinrar at Colwynnon. They've got Jinky, that'll score goals. And there's not been too much change in the Hereford team, Taz is still in the middle of the
Uh,
pitch. I know, and as you're saying, they might be aging, but we played them with 3 or 4 games to go in the last season, and Taz certainly didn't look as if he was aging in that game. So, yeah, I'm quite surprised at the start, but Hendo's probably one of the most, I think you could argue he's one of the most experienced managers in
uh,
this league. So I don't think they'll be panic. I think they'll look to keep getting stronger and just pull themselves into that relegation zone. But yeah, quite surprised. And obviously Mix had to go in there and take over at Darvel in really difficult circumstances in terms of a lot of change for the club. And, probably feels the weight of the world on his shoulders at times with, a lot of players coming out, and trying to recruit, difficult circumstances and the points deduction, all that kind of stuff that as a manager, when you're looking to, you know, just focus on coaching and winning games, things like that with ineligible players is probably the last thing you need, and probably just feel that it's just a culmination of things. So, no, it's been a difficult start for them, but they've just got to, you know, I actually spoke to Mick that after the first few games, we lost 4 of the first 5 games, or something like that last season as well. So one win can just change the whole demographic of your season, and it can just change the way things look. So he'll be desperate to get that, and they've still got good quality players. They've got top quality facilities down there. So yeah, it would be a real shame to see Darvel, you know, languish down there having off the back of winning the Scottish Cup last year.
and it's also that first division, you know yourself, where your team, I know you weren't there at the time, but
Mm,
with St Cadoc's having come out of that league,
mm,
that's a ridiculously difficult division to come back out of because there's
totally.
so much quality and the teams are really it's not maybe quite the same level in terms
Yeah.
of football played in the first division, but it's a real physical challenging league. Glenafton, Paul Payton getting his first win in the league, 3-2 against Shotts after I think Shotts beat them in the cup last
Yeah,
week
they
or the
did.
week before.
Yeah.
That's a huge win for them. That takes them out it gives them a wee buffer
Yeah,
away for that relegation zone, which is so important when you know that the teams below you aren't really putting many points on the board as well.
yeah.
But a team that for me is quite worrying, the Borough obviously go and beat Cumnock 3-0.
Mm.
And again, I've been quite vocal, even though it's one of my many former clubs. They've got they've got the finances and the budget and the setup to go and be a top five team, in my opinion. But they're not putting wins together. They're now in a position where they're only a couple of points above the relegation zone. I think that it's starting to get to a stage where Swifty maybe should start worrying about how it's gone for them because it really isn't going well enough. And I appreciate you can't be quite as honest as I can be about what I say, but it's a really tough spell for them just now.
Yeah, no, Swifty's an experienced manager though, and again, probably a lot of change for them in the summer. Them coming in there and then bringing in the players that they wanted to bring in, Dylan Dykes, Brownlee, Blair Curry, real good players, and it probably is just a wee bit of taking time for it all to gel and knit together. And I keep referring back to us, but we were exactly the same this time last year, probably in a really similar situation to what Swifty and Cumnock are in now. So, yeah, I think one thing that probably I look at the team lineups. I think they maybe have a lot of injuries at the moment because I look at the bench and I think they only had four on the bench at the weekend,
Mm,
and that's something you can't control as a manager if you're picking up all these injuries and your squad's so stretched and there's games coming thick and fast that there's not all you can do is try and get your best team in the pitch. And I've not spoken to Swifty, but I'm sure that he'll be he'll be hoping to get a few players back and get that squad looking a wee bit healthier. Because the last thing you need when you're on not the best run in the world is players picking up injuries. But as I said, he's an experienced manager, worked in the Lowland League, worked in League Two with Stenhousemuir. So I'm not sure he'll be panicking at this stage. And I'm sure that, as you say, it's a great setup down there. The pitch, they just get a new pitch put in the
mm.
summer, so the infrastructure's there. It's just trying to get the team on the pitch up to speed, I suppose.
Aye. In the first division, Ardrossan 1, Vale Clyde 1, Arthurlie 1, Renfrew 0, Maple 3, Co 1 and 3, Petershill 2, Kilburnley 2, Thornywood 2, Blantyre 0, Ashfield 3, Glencairn 4. Um, an interesting one for me. I was out yesterday. Obviously, we spoke yesterday, and I was quite drunk when I was out yesterday. But I was checking the results as I was out, and Ashfield took an early lead against Glencairn.
Yeah.
Glencairn, since they've been a wee bit different from the Meda, and the fact that even though they beat the Meda started to kick on after that game, whereas Glencairn have had a wee dip in form, getting their first defeat in the league and stuff. Ashfield go one up early. I think they get it to one each, and then Ashfield go 3-1 up. And I didn't realise until the night that Glencairn had actually come back and won it because
Hmm.
I was too far gone by the end of the game. But that's a massive result for me for Glencairn. It kind of stopped that wee dip in form. Ashfield on the other side was so disappointing for Neil and his team with the fact that they're in. I think they'll go down this year, and as much as I like Ashfield because of Dak's connection there, and I like Maxey and stuff, they've only got 2 points out of 10 games, still to register a win. And when things are going against you,
Mm.
you lose those games like yesterday. Whereas if you're on a high and you're winning most of the time, you probably see that game through.
Yeah. Well, I've got a vested interest in Rutherglen for a couple of reasons. Billy Ogilvie, that's the co-manager there, is a really close mate of mine. Uh, I worked with him at East Kilbride. I was his kit man at East Kilbride 10 years ago, actually. And I've been really close with Billy ever since. So I speak to Billy a couple of times a week, to be honest. And we've got two loan players at Rutherglen.
Hmm.
We've got Ollie Black that's on loan there as a young centre back, and Lewis McTaggart joined on loan
I
at
saw
the end
that.
of
Aye.
last week. So yeah, vested interest in Rutherglen. Would love to see Joe and Billy get them up. The work that they've done over the last few years, they've built a really young, hungry squad with players that putting in the first division that have maybe had a taste of the Premier Division or were younger players in loan league teams that are looking to put themselves in the shop window, looking to improve, and hopefully this year they'll reap the benefits of that. Boys like Don McLaughlin, Matt Meekin, and Rowan Fitzpatrick. These players have all been there now for a couple of years, improving, and I think they're going to peak at the right time for Rutherglen because I'll be honest, we played them the last game of pre-season, and everything about them looked like a Premier League side, in my opinion.
I
So
I think that they're a bit like Clydebank in the sense that they've had that continuity for a few
yeah,
years,
yeah,
and if you add in one or two bits of quality on top of the continuity you've got there, you really put yourself in a good position. And I do
yeah,
fancy them to get promoted. They're tied in points just now with Arthurlie, both on 23.
yeah.
Both played 10, won 7, drawn 2, lost 1. The reason Arthurlie are top of the league, their goal diff is a bit better.
Hmm.
And yesterday, a big thing for me, I touch on it a lot. At this level, if you can keep yourself to a goal a game conceding, you are
Yeah,
always in with a shout. Arthurlie have conceded 7 and 10, another clean sheet yesterday.
yeah,
With a 1-0 win over Renfrew, who Renfrew are flying as well this season. It's going to be an interesting finish to the season. I know we're still early on, but it's going to be an interesting finish to the
yeah,
season with the two of them because, like you said, Glencairn are looking like a Premier League side. In my opinion, Arthurlie are a Premier League side as
yeah.
well, and
Agreed.
it's going to be quite interesting between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think even with Rutherglen, what they did in the summer and adding Jarvie, who's an experienced player in that league that scored goals, and they've got Martin McBride still there, who is a really experienced, was a top senior pro. So when you put that bit of experience and mix it in with the young, hungry squad they've got, it looks as if they've kind of got the right formula. And as you say, Arthurlie, Colin having got to the Scottish Cup final and then with him getting relegated at the same point, really difficult to manage that. But they seem to have added, key players in the off season and they've started really, really well. Another huge club that you would like to see in the Premier Division. So yeah, I got a lot got on really well with Colin. So I'd hopefully like to see both of them come up this year.
I think that they've got a great chance. A few draws in the division. Mabel drawn with Cowanham. Mabel having, for me, I think they're actually having a better season than I thought they would. They're sitting in fourth place just now, giving themselves a decent chance at getting into the playoffs, into the promotion spots. And with the Rock not playing as well, it allows teams to try and catch points or get away from the Rock, who are really they're flying just now. Winning a funny side for me though. They're they've only lost one in the last 6 games, but they're putting too many draws on the board, and I don't think they'll get promoted this season. But I think Kev needs quite a bit of time because
Yeah.
there's been issues at Cowanham for the last few years with the amount of management changes and stuff. But they're kind of not really hitting the heights. And another team who fall into a similar bracket for me, Petershill drawing with Kilbirnie. Both teams, I'd say, actually fall into that bracket. They're all drawn too many games, no picking up enough points to put themselves in a position where they can go and challenge. Because I think Arthurlie and Glencairn are probably going to go up, and it's everybody else fighting for that one spot.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think Kevin got in there in the summer, and again, all the change there. I think they looked for a season of, kind of getting themselves the club back on their feet and having a solid season. I don't think there was expectations of them to go and win that league this year that there might have been this time last year with them coming out of the Premier. I think it was maybe going to be a year of consolidation for them, and they've done that. They've brought in good young players again, boys for the Cali Locos, guys like Conor McLaughlin. I see they signed Fraser Malcolm through the week as
Mm.
well,
Aye.
which is a goal scorer who started well with Beith, so that'll add goals to their team as well, so that'll improve them. And then, as you say, Petershill, Stevie tried to build on what was a decent season last year and just improve again to try and be really competitive and get in that top three. Again, I don't think it would have helped Peasy with them at the start, with the pitch not being available for them.
Mhm.
I think they had to play a lot of games away from home and probably didn't. Again, as a manager, when you're looking to prepare for a season or prepare to try and get promoted, the last thing you want is, disrupt off the pitch disruptions like that. And there's nothing they can do, but that's a great facility and it's a crack new pitch will get put down. But I think it proved for a difficult start for them. So now they're back in at Petershill. Hopefully, I'm sure that they'll be trying to just pick up more wins, as you say, than
Aye.
draw.
As much as I love Mary Hill, nobody really wants to go to Lockburn and have to play your games, particularly when you're used to playing on Astro.
Aye,
Certainly,
I'll
we
be
want to
honest that
say,
when the Strathclyde demolition semi-final draw was being made, the one I was praying that we didn't have to go to was Mary Holloway. So
would you, do
I'm with you on that.
you know what? We actually never, before we move on to second division, that's something I meant to touch on with Didney. getting to the cup final, for me, I think, and I, I don't know, right, but this is just my view. I think that it's been clever for clubs like yourself, Forth, Maryhill, to not go into the Junior Cup. Like, you're in a bit of a different position where you have got enough quality, you could go and win a Junior Cup, and financially, that's the competition you want to win because the prize money is so
Mm,
good. But you look at like the Drummer a couple of years ago, winning the Demolition Cup, getting himself into Senior Scottish.
yeah.
That competition is very good for particularly teams like yourselves who yous were always going to be the favourites for it because of the qualities have, and it's a lot of the smaller clubs are in the competition, so it's no surprising you've got to the final. But is that something that you've looked at? You think, well, this is a great route for us to go and push on and win a bit of silverware and get ourselves into the Scottish Cup?
So I don't think it was as intensely thought out as that, to be honest, PG. I think last year in the Scottish Junior we ended up in Stonehaven, we ended up in Dundee. The games took their toll on us, and the club just kind of made a club decision to enter the Strathclyde Demolition instead of the Scottish Junior. We looked at it to try and use it as a kind of a different platform to try and get some of the younger ones involved in the games. We've been able to use it to get three under 20 player debuts. It's been a good competition for us for that, albeit we ended up in Campbelltown, which was potentially one of the reasons why we were entering the Strathclyde Demolition was to avoid a really long journey in the cup. But so be it. Yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't a major. The idea getting the Scottish, yeah, the club are going through the license process
Mhm.
anyway, so that application's well underway. So I'd like to think that that would go through in time for us to be in the Scottish next year. I'm not 100% sure of how that works in the politics or the paperwork and stuff like that goes with it. But yeah, if you win the Strathclyde Demolition, it certainly gives you another opportunity to make sure you're in the Scottish Cup.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is something that we looked at and thought, you know, to get in the Scottish Cup's another box ticked for the club. The Brendan and Barry and the guys at the club, people probably don't see the work that the club are trying to do to improve the whole club and not just the first team. People look at things and they just go, "Oh, the first team are trying to do this," or they've signed Kieran Diver in the summer, which was, as you spoke about, the one that people were talking about. But the work that the club are doing to improve the whole infrastructure of the club, you see them getting to that Premier Division last year. Now we kind of have steadied ourselves as a solid Premier League team. The next thing for us is getting a license, playing in the Scottish Cup, getting a ground. And these are all boxes that you can't tick overnight. So if there's an opportunity to go and tick one of them in the Strathclyde Demolition Cup, the club have never actually won a trophy.
Mhm. Aye.
So that's another thing from the club that, in order to start winning things, you got to win the first.
Aye.
And I talk to the younger players at the under 20s quite a lot about goal setting, and it's dead easy to come in and say you want to be a first team player. And there's a whole lot of things going into it before you get to that stage. You've got to have first team involvement. You've then got to make your debut. You've then got to get a run of games and all that kind of stuff. And the same goes for the club. You can't just overnight decide, right, what to be a lone league club. You know, the club have aspirations to get promoted, absolutely. But the boxes that they've got to tick, club have got to get themselves in order. They want to get a license in, they want to get a ground, and they want to potentially win a trophy or two, and that sets up that whole process quite nicely. And that's something we had experience with at East Kilbride. So hopefully, that's a box that we'll certainly aim to go and tick, and we'll prepare for fourth in the final. As rigidly as we would for any other game. We won't take that lightly.
How does it work for you getting the license? Because obviously you don't have your own part right now. So
Mhm.
how does that work?
So it's the same for so many clubs in the SPFL. Clyde don't have their own ground,
Mm.
but they share with Stenhousemuir. So one of the stipulations isn't, having your own ground. It's, does the ground that you play at meet the SFA regulations? And the Bens more than meets it. The guys at the Bens the club have a really good relationship with the Bens, with Frank and Paul there, and it's about our lease being there, and us being able to tick the boxes to be an entry level SFA licensed club. So there's a lot of there's a lot of work goes into that, and the club have been working really hard since the minute we came in. behind the scenes on putting everything in place for that. And that's one thing that they've got to do to get where they want to get to. And there's no, I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say that the club do have aspirations that they want to keep climbing. There's
Mhm.
1,200 kids at St Cadoc's.
Aye.
The entity of the club is huge, and people, I totally underestimated that before I went in. And I'd come for East Kilbride, which was a big community club, and it felt it was quite a big club. And then I walked in at St Cadoc's, and I've been the last 15 months I've been blown away by the actual infrastructure of the club, how many people there is, how much goes on behind the scenes and coordinating 1,200 kids and all the teams and all the pitches they play on and referees fees, and it's a huge, huge entity. And our crowds are slowly growing, and that won't happen. That won't change overnight.
Mhm.
You know, I tell people at the club when East Kilbride played Celtic in the Scottish Cup 7 or 8 years ago, there was 10,000 at that game. The following Saturday, we played Threave at home in the league, and there was 71 people there, or something
Aye.
like that. And it's takes such a period of time. And we're envious of clubs like Clydebank and Talbot and Pollok that have gathered this huge support over tens of years, and we've just got to work to emulate that. And it won't be for a lack of trying. It won't happen overnight. I know that's always a stick that people beat us with, that we have no supporters. It's certainly not a stick I'm too bothered about. It means I'm not getting dogs abuse walking off when we've been beating the first 3 games of four with the start of the season. So hopefully I'm here long enough for when there is fans who can give me pelters when we've had a bad
Aye.
start.
Right, we'll move on to the second division. Cambuslang 1, Yoker 3, Craigmark 2, Cali Locals 1, Fourth 1, Larkhall 4, Coolside Rangers 1, Lanark 3, Lesmahagle 4, Bonnet 5, Maryhill 1, Muirkirk 2, The Ants 2, Bellshill 1, Whitletts 1, Neilston 2. I'll start with Whitletts and Neilston, two teams who are going to be looking to get promoted this season. Um, That's a massive result for Neilson. And I wrote Neilson off like right for the start of the season. I did not think that they would be having this tremendous run that they're having. That's 8 games of 1 out of 10 with 2 defeats. They're keeping themselves in touching distance with Muirkirk, who are absolutely flying as well.
Yeah,
Whitletts back-to-back defeats for the first time this season for them. But I think that that's a massive result for Neilson if they've got proper aspirations of getting themselves back into the first division.
yeah, really big result. As you say, especially with Whitletts dropping points, that Nielsen can put themselves in a better position. You touched on your cut there. What a start that Ross
Aye.
has had with the guys there. I know Ross moved that Benburb under 20s team, kind of almost lifted them straight into Muirkirk, and it was maybe a slightly more difficult. They had a good season last year, but they're certainly reaping the benefits now of those younger players, improving and getting better. So it's an unbelievable start they've had. I don't even think Ross would probably predicted it. I think they've won all games bar one, 10.
Aye,
They won
10,
10.
10 out of 11. And that
Yeah, they
was
won 10 and
maybe
lost one.
4 or 5 weeks ago, their first defeat.
Yeah, yeah. So look, brilliant start. A start that any manager would bite the hand off for. So no, delighted for them. And it's good to see a you know, a, a kind of solid Ayrshire junior club take a chance on a
Mhm.
younger manager, an under 20s team, and putting them in there and backing it over a wee period of time. And hopefully they'll just continue to improve.
I think that's a good point you make is that they've taken the opportunity or they've
Mm.
given the opportunity for them to come for Ben's 20s.
Yeah,
And they're obviously reaping the rewards so far. It's hard to see them no going to have a good chance at least going up, never mind winning the league. And I think that something I spoke about a few weeks back on the show was you get a lot of clubs go this merry-go-round with managers where it's like just certain managers, or you've been here or there, and regardless of how well they've done, they'll get themselves a job somewhere else because they've been at other clubs. So it is good to see a club take a chance on
absolutely.
somebody coming for 20s, and it's definitely worked for them. A result I really want to touch on, and I'm absolutely delighted for Craig Mark 2-1 against Cali Locals. Cali Locals, they're quite a tough side in that
Mm.
league. They won't get promoted, I don't think, this season, but they're a good, solid mid-table team in that league. Um, Craig Mark have had a horrific season, conceded 43 goals in 10 games, and I don't think they played any pre-season games. The management team that came in after us, lasted 2 or 3 weeks, and then the team there they now had to completely rebuild the squad weeks before the season started. I'm really happy for them to go and get that win, and it's a good win for them as well. I don't think it'll be enough in the sense over the course of the season to keep them up, but I think that's a huge win for them, and it's one that the club and the players and the management probably needed more than anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure Danny would be disappointed at Cali Locos. They've had a wee bit of an up and down start, but certainly a solid start for Danny's first managerial
Mhm.
job in there. We got a young player on loan, a boy Danny Gray that was with our under 20s last year that we signed this summer and put out on loan there. So always follow the results pretty closely. Uh, and my brother was played with Danny and some of the guys for Cali Locos when he was on loan at Cumbernauld United, and there's quite a few of the boys there, guys like Kevin Watt and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I follow them quite closely. So Danny will be disappointed. I think they're just on that cusp of sitting mid-table, and a couple of wins drags them closer to the promotion zone. So probably looking at the Craig Mark game with the start they've had, they looked at that and thought it was probably another opportunity to put another win on the board. So yeah, they'll be disappointed. But as you say, it's a great result for Craig Mark, and when you've had that horrible start, you're just desperate for wins. So I'm sure they would have enjoyed their Saturday night more than they've enjoyed the last
Aye,
10.
definitely. Your opponents for the Demolition Cup final, fourth, comfortably beaten by Lark Hall. And I've sang the praises of Lark Hall quite a lot on the show. We played them last year at Craigmark, and I thought they were one of the better teams in the league,
Hmm.
even though they missed out in promotion. They're a good side. They're a decent football team, but they're willing to mix it up with you as
Yep.
well. If you want to go and battle with them, they'll go and battle with you, but they also play some good football as well. I think that they're going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season with um, Lanark as well, who beat Kilsyth Rangers yesterday. Kilsyth, for me, that's 2 wins they've had out of 6 back-to-back defeats. It's not been a great run for them, and I think that they're a club who historically are a bigger club and should be doing better. But Lanark and Lark Hall, both good sides who are putting themselves in right in contention to get promoted.
Yeah, yeah, no, a good result for Larkhall. They eliminated Beath out the cup as well, so
Mm.
and they made the semi-finals of the Scottish Junior a couple of seasons ago as well. I remember that game. So yeah, probably the next stage for them is getting promoted out of that league, and they're fighting hard to do that. It's another good result on Saturday for them against Forth. I've been following Forth's results a wee bit since we had the chance of getting them in the final, and I think their results are really, really up and down. They're
Aye.
either winning convincingly or like a Saturday losing quite convincingly. But they potentially after last week them getting to a cup final, you see it, I'm sure, quite often that they'll have been celebrating that, and then the following week the result potentially your eye comes off the league a wee bit when you've just reached a cup final. So probably you know their eyes will start to drift towards that cup final on 1st of December. So and again, Forth have got good players there. Boys I know well. I had quite a few of them under 20s. Blair Hill, Dylan Orr. I know Anton McGuigan really well, Connor Neilston. So they've got a young, hungry squad. So yeah, I think they probably the quality that they've got probably doesn't reflect their league position. I think they're
Mhm.
sitting second bottom at the moment
Second
after
bottom,
this
I've got
result.
7 points for 10 games.
But again, I think the quality they've got in their team probably doesn't reflect that position. So I would expect them to pull away for that in the next few weeks, and although hopefully it can be after the 1st of December.
um, Down the bottom end of the table, a massive result for the Ants beating Bells Hill 2-1. The Ants had they'd only picked up 1 point out of the previous 5 games before Saturday, and that was a really important one for them. Bells Hill, they are, after their great season last year and getting promoted, and they're having it quite hard in
Mm.
the second division. It's quite difficult when you step up a league, you know what it's like. But on the flip side, you've got Cambuslang who've come down a division,
Yep.
lost again yesterday. Yoka, they're they're in a real struggle to try and stay in this division as well. Back to back relegations really wouldn't be great for them. I don't think it's something that Paul would have expected at the start of the season.
I don't think MD would have expected it, to be honest. I certainly didn't. Seeing the results through pre-season, I thought they'd added some good players to the squad as well. And I thought they would probably be challenging towards the other end to try and get back promoted. I spoke to Paul actually just before the first game of the season because they played Glenafton in pre-season, and I think they'd had not a bad pre-season, Cambuslang. So, but again, Paul's another experienced manager. It's a big club, potentially a bit of a sleeping giant in terms of time gone by, but
Mm.
they'll be desperate not to go down another league, and still a long way to go. And I think with there not being any transfer windows for us can change things so quickly
Aye.
because a couple of players can become available, and all of a sudden a couple of signings and a couple of wins changes everything. So I'm sure Paul will be looking for that. Yeah, because I think everybody would hate to see them go down again.
Nah, I agree. Third division, Ardeer 2, Greenock 5, Dorai 2, Glasgow Uni 3, Girvan 1, Finnart 2, Perthshire 2, Glenvale 2, Glasgow United 1, Cosaith Athletic 1, Luger 5, Irvine Vix 5, Vale Leven 1, Thorn 4. A bit of fight in the promotion spots, Ardeer and Greenock. Greenock are absolutely flying just now. It's 5 wins out of 6 for them. I think them having Slick in the team is massive. I know he's in his 40s, but he's not really like many guys who are in their 40s with how he looks after himself. I think he could be one of the key factors
Mm.
in them going up this season. They're putting themselves in a position where they could really be looking to go up. He scored a couple of goals again yesterday. He scored last week. I think scored the week before. That experience is invaluable for them, and I know Sean will be really disappointed to drop the points. Whereas if they'd won, they'd have been sitting in second place,
Yeah.
and now they're sitting in sixth place. It just shows how tight that division is just now.
Yeah, no, a great result for Gary and Greenock. That when you've had a decent start and then a player like Slick becomes available and you get him in and he hits the ground running and scores goals, it probably just gives everybody a boost. So yeah, that's a great result for them. That's a really competitive division. I was looking at that today. I don't think you could predict who won that at this stage, or even it's not like the first division where you can see kind of two
Aye.
real front runners. It's a real tight league, and a couple of wins for MD will drag them right up the table. So yeah, no, great result for Greenock, and good to see Slick still scoring goals in his
I
40.
know. At the ripe age of 53. It's in that division, you're right when you say it's tight. I mean, if Glasgow United win their game in hand, they're sitting ninth in the league right now. If they win their game in hand, they're only 4 points off a second place. It is so tight that you're really looking at 6 or 7 teams fighting it out for that that promotion spot. The league leaders just now, Thorn, 4-1 against Vale Leven. Vale Leven no having the best of seasons, but the Thorn just keep ticking away and ticking away. And I actually get chinned last night, my night out. Somebody chinned me for being up the Thorn's arse, was what was I was told. So I'm going to continue to do it because I think that
Right.
what they're doing, and they're kind of similar to yourselves in a sense where teams like yourselves, Drumchapel, Thorn, I even put like St Peter's and Glenveigh and that into it, where these clubs were brought in my opinion, because of the youth setup, and there's a sustainability there where they know that even if the clubs aren't brilliant, like again, I'll mention St Peter's who haven't had a great season, you know that there's a sustainability there with the pathway that they have whole
Totally.
through the whole club with hundreds and hundreds of kids involved. And I think the
Totally.
Thorn are like that with yourselves as well, that it gives you a good grounding to go and push and make the team better.
That's a great word you've used there, sustainability, because I'll always have a soft spot for all of these teams for the reasons you just spoke about. My whole background, you know, playing youth and then into working with Scotbride was all of a club that had been put together out of, that ethos. It was boys' clubs that came together in East Kilbride. And then likewise with St Cadoc's not having a senior first team, but having all these kids teams since the 70s. So, I think clubs like East Kilbride, St Cadoc's, Glenvale, Thorn, Gartcairn, all these teams that are trying to fight to climb the pyramid. That's what the pyramid's all about. That's
Mm.
what it was put in place, and it's an easy stick to beat people with about supporters. I see so many things that people say, "Oh, but you've no supporters, so why would you want to play for a club, whether it be Thorn or Glenvale or East Kilbride?" different position now East Kilbride 10 years in, but they weren't 5 or 6 years ago. It's a dead easy stick to beat people with and say, oh, there's no supporters. But those things take time, and there's more than one way to make a club sustainable, and people forget that. Whether it's Glenvale or Thorn or us, that there's multiple ways to kind of skin a cat. That way, and
Aye,
people, if you actually peel some of these clubs back from the initial layers that you see from a first team playing in the fourth division or third division, you'd be amazed at some of the infrastructure and some of the good people that are at these clubs driving it forward. The work that goes into clubs getting things like platinum quality marks and all that kind of stuff that makes clubs sustainable, gets them funding, lets them put more kids on the pitch or lower cost, all this kind of stuff that can drive clubs forward. That's more than just having an extra 100 people coming to watch the first team on a
aye.
Saturday. And sustainable is the word. So yeah, delighted to see Thorn doing well. They've given another young manager a chance, and David there. He took over. I don't know I can't remember the
It
last
was
chap.
Steve McKnight.
Aye, so it was. Aye, I met Stephen actually in the summer, and David was his assistant. And David was a youth coach at Queens Park, and I knew him for there. So great to see him take over for Stephen, and the wins keep coming. So yeah, great to see these young clubs climbing the pyramid because, as I say, that's why it was brought in all 10 years ago.
Aye. Moving on to two of our more established clubs in that division, Lugar 5, Irvine Vix 5. That's a really important point for Irvine Vix. They've had a really tough season, 4 defeats in a row before this point. Girvan lost yesterday, which allows Irvine Vix to get a point closer to them. Wishaw won the playing, so it allows them to get a point further away for them. It's a really important one. Lugar will be disappointed because they had the lead for quite a large spell of the game and then they go and throw it away. Defence is on top type of game. But that's Irvine Vix, they really needed that point, and I think that it could be an important one for them if they're really looking to try and push themselves out of the relegation zone.
Yeah, we played Irvine Vix in the cup. It was one of our seven wins. And then I see the following week they had to play Rutherglen, who were sitting top of the first division at
Aye.
that point. So I feel for the guys there in terms of you're not having a great start and you're looking to wins the board, and then you get really difficult cup draws, and it probably again feels like you can't get any momentum going to try and build up confidence going into those league games. So yeah, it's a good point for them, and it's now just a case of them trying to. It's a tough battle down the bottom of that league. I, my mate plays with Wishaw, a guy I work with plays with Wishaw, so I follow the bottom of that table quite closely, and it's really tight, and it's going to be a scrap for some of those teams that are down there. I see Aaron's just went to Wishaw over the last few weeks from EK Thistle, so yeah, he's got a real tough job in his hands there in terms of trying to get them out of that bottom three. So because you now start to see in that league, there's a couple of them starting to become
Aye.
detached, and that's when it becomes really difficult. And that's when, as you say, that point you get for Irvine Vixen Saturday, single points become really valuable at that
Mm.
stage.
I think so. We'll move on to the fourth division. BSC 1, Giffnock 3, Pollok 0, Port Glasgow 5, East Kilbride 1, Newmans 3, Eglinton 8, Campbelltown 0, Kellow 2, Easterhouse 3, Rossvale 0, Knightswood 4, Saltcoats 1, West Park 2, St Peters 0, Royal Albert 5. I think the big game of the day in the fourth division yesterday, Rossvale and Knightswood.
Hmm.
I said last week, and I'm mates with Josh, so like I speak to him weekly, and I said it on the show, and like he kind of messaged me, kind of knowing what I was talking about. But I said if they didn't win that yesterday, then their chances of winning the league would be gone. I still think they're in with a chance of getting promoted,
Hmm.
but I think their chances of winning the league would be gone. Knightswood go and win it convincingly, 4-0. That is them now 8 points clear of Rossvale with a game in hand, which, based off the fact they've won 9 out of 10 and drawn one, you would assume that depending on who they have, they're going to win that game in hand, and it makes the gap even bigger. I think that the work that's been done at Knightswood is hugely impressive. Only the second season in the setup. Last year, the kind of management changed. They were mid-table, had a reasonable first season. Granted, you hear the rumours of money now being thrown about there and stuff, and you get Darren Miller and Kenny Marshall and Liam Coogans and stuff in there, so they're all really experienced, good quality players. But I think for the club, that's a massive win for them, and it lays a bit of marker down as well to, on paper, he wins so convincingly against Rossvale, who on their day are one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, big result. Big result. As you say, it's hard to look by Knightswood at the moment for that fourth division. And as you said, they've got some real quality players. Like there's an argument, they could be playing Premier League, some of them.
Mhm.
So yeah, Josh will be disappointed, but I'm sure his eyes will be fixed on getting promoted out of that league. I know Josh quite well as well, just for playing against him for years when he was at Albion Rovers and Gartcairn and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be disappointing for him there, but I don't think there'll be much time to waste for Rossvale in terms of getting eyes fixed back on one, just getting as close to Knightswood as they possibly can, but two, making sure they're in the best possible position to get promoted. Yeah, Knightswood, you'd imagine probably just put the foot to the pedal now and just try and really race away and go and win that league. So, which you would think you'd be
Uh,
a bit of
It
a fool to
look
bet against them at this stage.
it looks like they've got one of the three spots sewn up
Yeah.
based on current form. But then you look at Port Glasgow, 5-0 against Pollok yesterday. Pollok, they're not having a good season at all. They're really struggling. And you look at, we talk about the new clubs coming into the league, just to kind of digress a bit. It's most of the established clubs who are at the bottom of the table, the bottom half of the table, and Pollok are one of them. Port important win 5-0. They're in second place just now, tied 22 points with Easterhouse, who I think that was a massively impressive result for Easterhouse yesterday. Two each with Kello. I think it was in 94th minute, Easterhouse get the winner. I think the job, and I keep harping on about it, Easterhouse were not, pardon my turn of phrase, but were absolutely dug shit last year for a spell. And the fact that the guys have come in, the job they have done is absolutely incredible with probably no budget,
Mhm.
scraping to get players in. I think it's a tremendous job. And you go and beat Kello, who are flying down there, makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, I think they've had some decent result. I was going to say result. I believe they've had some decent showings in the cups as well,
Mhm.
Easterhouse, where they've played some higher up opposition and they've done really well in those games. I can't remember now, but I remember seeing them at the time and thinking that they'd done well in those games. So yeah, as you say, it's a brilliant job there. They are under 20s, played their under 20s a couple of times last year, and they were really
Yeah,
difficult
good side.
games. Yeah, they were a good under 20s side. So you'd imagine maybe some of that's finding its way into the first team and maybe one or two younger players there. So I'd be lying if I said I knew too much about them or Kello, but yeah, no, that's a great job that the guys have done there. And I see that Eglinton beat Campbelltown 8
Yeah.
0 yesterday, and I was really impressed with Eglinton last Saturday. On the pitch, they were, it was a 3-0 game, but it probably wasn't, a fair reflection of the game. Eglinton were in it and they made us work really hard for the win and really good people there. They put on brilliant hospitality for us after the game in a pub just up the road, and was really impressed with the setup and the team on the pitch, probably more importantly. So, that's a great result for them as well.
Well, I was going to touch on that. For me, harsh maybe not the right word, but I've been quite, I'll say harsh with Eglinton, where I felt like they've really underachieved
Mhm.
the start of the season. The resources they've got, the catchment area they're in, they're in a good place. And I felt like they really should have been doing better. The last 6 to 8 weeks, they have properly turned it. It's like a light switch has just went on,
Mhm.
and they've kicked on, like you said. They did well against yourselves in the cup. They okay, Bonus. Bonus
Yeah,
beat them in
bonus one
the
nil.
last minute of the game. Bonus if they score to put them at the cup, and you're like, it's so impressive. They've now put themselves in a position where they're right in the hunt for that promotion place. And
Mm.
also, I don't think that they'll sustain it, but I think West Park as well, they've put themselves in a position where they are now only a few points away, only a point behind Rossvale. They're a few points away from the promotion place. They've put themselves in a position where that is so tight. You're really looking at, I'd say, all the way down to seventh place with Eglinton. You've
Mm.
got the six teams for the Port in second to Eglinton in seventh, fighting it out for the remaining two spots in the promotion hunt. Other end of the table, BSC lose again. That's one win they've had at 11, sorry. Definitely it's a good one for them. They're starting to pick up some points now. But St Peter's losing, Royal Albert, which I was quite surprised at because Royal Albert, that was their first win of the season. East Kilbride losing to New Mains, I think that division's kind of separated in two. You've got the top teams who are better than everybody else,
Yeah,
and the bottom teams can all just pick each other apart and pick up points and lose points. But it does make for quite interesting viewing. And yeah, everybody's teams are still in their infancy at this level as well, a lot
yeah,
of them. So it's still trying to find their feet.
totally. And that's why the fourth division is so exciting because there's so many teams that are finding their feet in the pyramid structure in that fourth division. I don't know how it works where you finish in bottom, but I'm presuming there's no
Nothing.
relegation out there.
Nah, you
Nah,
just.
nothing. But then I know there's still teams on the periphery that are looking to apply to get in. So yeah, I think it's only going to continue to get stronger. And then if you see there's teams like Knightswood that you look at some of the teams that have won the third and fourth division over the last couple of years and how they continue to keep
Mhm,
climbing. I think one of the hardest things is probably that first couple of years where you find yourself in there. St Cadoc's were probably relatively lucky at the timing of their application because they applied post COVID where
mhm.
it was conferences
Aye.
and everything was level playing field, and then they were able to go and you know put themselves in a position where they were in the first division when the leagues were restructured. So yeah, it's now just a case of all these teams that are find themselves in the fourth or finding their own level, and that'll take a few years for the whole West League to balance out a wee bit, and just the the teams all to find their own level a wee bit better. Certainly happened over the last couple of years.
Aye, I think when Dak was back on last week, we were talking about it. It's something me and him spoke about a lot. We mentioned the conferences is the conferences were very much uneven because teams were just all put together. So you were getting
Yeah,
teams like Saltcoats and stuff who were just taking horrendous beatings every week.
yeah,
Whereas now everybody has found their level.
yeah.
And that's why I think, barring the odd kind of outliers, all the divisions are just so tight. It's
Aye.
because they're at the level they're supposed to be at now. But look, that'll be us for this week. I really appreciate you coming on, mate. I've enjoyed talking to you, and there's been so many things I've wanted to ask you. This has actually been the longest episode we've had on the roundup, but there's been so much I've wanted to ask you that I've not been able to, and we'll get to it when we get you on for an interview. But look, mate, I really appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks very much for having me on, PG. I really appreciate it, mate.
No, no problem at all. And thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, get down and watch your local club next week. Take care. Cheers.